Have you ever been watching the most immaculate throwers in slow motion when all of a sudden a little detail catches your eye? What is that? Why on earth is he doing this, bro? Doesn't this cause like air bounces? Isn't it gonna have huge nose angle problems? Oh, dude, he's throwing into a net, of course. Probably doesn't do this in his distance stuff. AB, what are you doing? Amateurs, look at you, bro. What is happening? Okay, he's gotta be the only one. Amis? Are we supposed to be doing this? Ellie, please. Okay, are we doing this now? Is this a thing? Drop. All right, to recap what we're talking about today, just in case you got totally enamored by our title screen there, we're talking about the elbow dip. And we're asking the question, how do all these throwers that we saw who throw really, really far, and just about most of us right now would take any of their throws, how do they throw far with the elbow dip? Isn't that causing problems? Well, today I would propose to you that it's a feature, not a bug. When properly executed, I believe that an elbow dip can actually help the throw. But here's the catch. When an elbow dip forms because of poor coil mechanics or poor pocket mechanics, the elbow dip totally backfires. So today we're gonna explore both sides of that coin. So first, we're gonna look at how pros are using the elbow dip to squeak out just a little bit of extra power, I think. And then we're gonna look at when we wanna take it out of our form, when it starts compensating for things like lack of coil, and what to look for so you know if you need to address it in your form. So if you're just curious about how the pros are using it, or you got it in your form and you wanna know what's up, you're in the right place. Let's get started. First, let's start by looking at how elite players set up before the elbow dip. Watch this slow motion footage of Anthony Barella during a distance competition. Notice first his position at peak extension. Look at his body posture, how over the shot he is. Now look at how coiled he is. You can see his entire back. We would call this a tilted coil. And its primary purpose is to get the disc back behind us, to give us room to accelerate the disc forward. So after you do this, you've really created all the room we look for in the backswing on a good throw. But it seems to me like there are a couple players who found just a little bit of extra room back here to swing the disc forward. Before we get into that, we need to answer the question of why do we want more room back there? Well, the answer is that it gives us more time to accelerate the disc moving forward. I want you to imagine me trying to run as quickly as possible. Now that you've imagined that, try to imagine how quickly I would run from here to here. Now imagine how much faster I would run that same length if you gave me twice the amount of room to start accelerating. That's essentially what we're doing when we increase our backswing length. Now, maybe if you're a little slow and sluggish like me, you don't want all that extra room to run, right? But if you're quick, you want as much time to accelerate as possible. And this is where I believe the swoop comes in. Notice at how peak extension here, AB has his elbow up at his shoulder / collarbone level. Then here in the pocket, his elbow is back at his chest level. So by lifting and then subsequently dropping his elbow, he gains this like vertical space back here. It's not much, but he gains this extra move from here to here versus here to here. Right? It's just a little bit of a longer lever. So the key here is his use of vertical space. You can use horizontal space to increase the length of this backswing, but you're gonna do what we call rounding, right? It's gonna make it tougher to get into your pocket without collapsing it, and it's gonna make it tougher on the back end accuracy-wise. But if you use this vertical space, you're not compromising any of your pocket space. In other words, he doesn't really have to make any concessions. He can have the extra swing length and maintain his accuracy on his line. Though you could argue that now he's gonna have a little bit more vertical high and low missing, but that's probably not quite as important as your left to right miss. Now, before you start adding the elbow dip and a swoop into your swing, let me just give you a cautionary note here. Okay, we are observing this in players who already have a good coil. They already have a clean pocket. This is not something that I think you need to start trying to add to your form. We're more asking the question of, if it's in your form, when is it acceptable? So, full disclosure, I don't see this swoop, this little bit of a swoop that they have going on, as like the final stage of form, or like, okay, you got good space back there, let's add an elbow dip into your swing, just a little one. What I'm doing here is I'm just speculating on why we see a good amount of pros use it. So while it is a very fascinating observation in my opinion, it's not something you want to start trying to force into your form. So one major issue that I see in players' form that causes an elbow dip is poor coil. So usually it will look something like this. They'll be going up, they'll be turning, and now they stop moving their shoulders and their hand just continues to go. They run out of space because no coil. They don't turn their shoulders back enough to create that length in the backswing, but their body knows intuitively that it wants more of a backswing to be able to accelerate. After all, if they were just here, this is not a lot of room, but all of a sudden here, I can still get an extra foot, but not actually have any better mechanics. So the solution for people with a swoop in their form because of this, get your shoulders all the way back, get your chest fully away from the target, make sure that your shoulder is the thing that's pushing your arm back, not your arm just swinging back independently. The other major cause of the elbow dip, if you've got a good coil, is just arm orientation. The elbow dip's gonna happen because when you naturally break your elbow going forward and go to get into the pocket, your elbow, when facing down, is going to move down. If you're here, it's gonna swoop down, and now oftentimes you have a disc that's more like vertical like this in the pocket when that happens. Now, disclaimer here, I've seen people throw very far doing that same thing. They kind of end up curling here and then they uncurl this way. The issue there for me is just lack of angle control, not even necessarily distance potential. So those people are kind of doomed to a life of hyzers, which again, you can get pretty good with a hyzer. It is very, very high percentage shot selection, but maybe if you can't throw any other angle and you need to, we decide to fix that. Right now, I'm just exploring these nuances in elite form. I'm not trying to give a one-size-fits-all, nor will I ever give a one-size-fits-all option for players. So what I want to leave you with is this. If you got a swoop in your form and it isn't because you're coiling poorly or your arm's not in the right space, it's not hindering your pocket, not hindering your angle control, I wouldn't feel pressured to change it. As the sport grows and as our understanding of form evolves, I'm excited to share these little ideas and nuances and theories on what we're seeing pros do without giving you big, rigid constraints on your form when we don't see uniformity in pros. If you're interested in diving into your own form and talking about some of these nuances that you might see in your throw, and whether they're good or bad, or whether you just want resources to develop your game at your own pace, check out our Patreon. We have daily form reviews. That is a tier where you can go at your own pace. A coach is looking at your specific throw and deciding, okay, what needs to change here for he or she to reach their goals. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We will catch you in the next one. Peace.